The situation unfolded like this. I'm Aurora, 20 years old, and president of the university's Light and Sound Club. It's a mostly useless position, truth be told, but anyone on campus who wants to borrow audio equipment needs my approval. One day, I was on duty in the club office when a guy came in to borrow some speakers. Normally, there's an application form to fill out, but when he mentioned it was for a love confession, I waved my hand magnanimously and let him take them. I was picturing myself as some kind of Cupid, propping my feet up on the desk, happily munching on dried mangoes. That's when my roommate, Ren, called. Lyric. Disaster. 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 Her voice was frantic. What's up? The sky isn't falling, is it? I drawled, still chewing. Someone's confessing their love on the quad. I know. I lent them the speakers. The person with the microphone is Zephyr Sterling. What? I practically launched myself out of my chair, bolting for the quad without even grabbing my jacket. Had I known the speakers were for my crush, Zephyr Sterling, to confess his love, I would have never agreed. Never. I sent Ren a voice message as I raced downstairs. Ren, you have to stall them somehow. I'm going to get those speakers back. I've had a crush on Zephyr for ages. There's no way I'm letting him use my speakers to confess to some other girl. I jammed the key into my scooter, speeding towards the scene of the impending heartbreak. The quad was swarming with people. Balloons were everywhere. Damn, this was a big production. Zephyr, despite his usual icy, aloof demeanor, clearly put a lot of thought into this. My heart clenched. I didn't even bother taking the key out of the ignition. I just charged into the middle of the crowd. Zephyr, you're cutting me to the core. Even though I'd mentally rehearsed 100 scenarios of dramatically snatching back the speakers, the moment I saw Zephyr standing there, looking all cool and composed, I chickened out. Zephyr's skin is incredibly pale, and the bright lights of the quad made him look even paler. He gave me a brief, dismissive glance. My heart pounded. I crouched down near the speakers, pretending to be engrossed in my phone. If Zephyr's confession is successful, I messaged Ren, I'll give up on him completely. My fingers were trembling so badly that I accidentally tapped on the voice message I'd sent her earlier. I was wondering why my phone wasn't making any sound, so I put the earpiece to my ear. Just then, the speakers next to me roared to life. Ren, you have to stall them somehow. I'm going to get those speakers back. I've had a crush on Zephyr for ages. There's no way I'm letting him use my speakers to confess to some other girl. My voice, amplified by the speakers, echoed across the quad, even bouncing off the empty stage. Holy mother of! I'd forgotten the speakers automatically connected to my phone's Bluetooth. The surrounding chatter died instantly. Everyone was utterly confused. Only Zephyr, his eyes narrowed, started walking towards me, his long strides deliberate and unhurried. I'm not stupid. I took off running. Normally, I'd be thrilled to be the center of his attention. But now? I'd just ruined his confession. I sprinted out of the west gate of the quad, intending to hop on my scooter and escape. But when I got there, where was my scooter? Where was it? Who was the inconsiderate jerk who'd seen the key still in the ignition and just ridden off with it? I turned, planning to cut through the small grove of trees. Halfway through, someone grabbed the back of my collar. Ah! I yelped, startled. The person didn't say anything. I twisted around awkwardly. Zephyr, fancy meeting you here. Zephyr gave a small, extremely displeased smirk. Zephyr, could you maybe let go of me? I forced a smile. He released his grip, casually slipping his hands into his pockets. I straightened my collar, regrouping. Zephyr, I'm so sorry. I didn't intentionally ruin your confession. You were crouched right next to the speakers. I don't see how that was unintentional, Zephyr said, his cool voice chilling me to the bone. Well, maybe the girl hasn't arrived yet. Maybe she didn't hear it. You can still go ahead with your confession. Just say you don't know me. It's too late. You made a mistake. You have to take responsibility. The flickering light from the street lamp cast shadows on one side of his face, making him look unexpectedly handsome. I was completely flustered, racking my brain for a way to take responsibility that didn't involve further humiliation. Zephyr suddenly leaned in, his gaze fixed on mine. Lyric, why did you run? He was so close that I noticed his eyes were even darker than obsidian. I was looking for my scooter. I forgot to take the key out. Did you find it? No, it's gone. Let's go, Zephyr said, straightening up and taking a step back. Huh? Where? To find your scooter. As for how you'll take responsibility, I'll let you know when I've figured it out. His expression was calm, almost serene. He didn't seem as angry as before. What about the girl? I was confused. She didn't show up. Huh, this made no sense. A girl wouldn't show up to Zephyr Sterling's confession? It's okay. Matters of the heart are unpredictable. Maybe she'll regret it tomorrow, I said, feigning sympathy while looking at Zephyr's somber expression. Of course, I didn't want her to regret it. Zephyr was a prize I wasn't willing to share. Even if I didn't have a chance with him, I could at least enjoy looking at him. Once someone else took a bite out of that apple, I'd lose interest. Sir. I knocked on the security office door. What is it? The security guard opened the door, a wave of warm air washing over me. Sir, I can't find my scooter. I wanted to check the security footage. I gave him my most sincere, wide-eyed look. What's the license plate number? The guard adjusted his reading glasses, his eyes also scanning Zephyr, who was standing behind me. I told him the number. The guard turned and pulled a key out of a drawer. So, the scooter with the key left in it was yours? I scratched my head, embarrassed. Don't park it by the quad entrance next time. What were you doing there? What was so urgent that you forgot to take your key? The guard sounded very displeased. We'll be careful next time, sir, Zephyr assured him earnestly. He took the key and wheeled the scooter out from under the awning. Aren't you getting on? Zephyr honked the horn, raising an eyebrow, looking as if the scooter was his own. Oh! Was Zephyr actually interested in my scooter? Wait, put this on. Zephyr took off his jacket, a brown wool coat. If his confession had been successful tonight, this coat would probably be draped over the lucky girl's shoulders. I'm not cold. I felt a pang of bitterness. I said I wasn't cold, but the next second, a gust of wind hit me, and I let out a full-blown sneeze. Sure. Zephyr tilted his head slightly, his bangs swept aside by the wind, making me want to reach out and smooth them back into place. I reached out and took the coat, hesitantly sitting on the back, my fingertips gripping the seat, not daring to move. The cold wind whipped at my neck, but I still felt strangely warm. Zephyr rode past the quad. I craned my neck, and it seemed like most of the people had dispersed. Revisiting the scene of the crime, I felt even worse. I need to go back to the office first, I said, poking Zephyr's arm. Zephyr grunted. Zephyr parked the scooter in front of the student activities building. I took off the coat and handed it back to him. Your jacket. Go inside quickly, Zephyr said, the tip of his nose reddened from the cold. I'm going to head off. Okay. I took the key and turned to go upstairs. The speakers had already been returned. I wasn't sure by whom. Some good Samaritan, I guess. So, had Zephyr gone to find her? Lyric. Tonight. As soon as I entered the dorm room, Ren greeted me with excitement. Stop. Don't mention it. I never wanted to relive that scene again. Don't be sad. They said the girl wasn't even there tonight, Ren said, patting my shoulder. Who is the girl? I asked. I occasionally ran into Zephyr on campus, but I'd never noticed him with any particular girl. Serafina Moreau, from the English department. What a coincidence. We were in the same elective class. At the time, to get more chances to see Zephyr, I'd painstakingly gathered information about his schedule and, rushing at the last minute, managed to enroll in the same elective. By the time I'd registered, the class had already been in session for a week. I snuck in quietly. The place was packed. How was I supposed to find Zephyr? I circled around to the back row and picked a seat. Just as I took off my mask, I looked up and saw Zephyr standing in the aisle, wearing glasses. He was leaning over, asking the student next to him to move over. It was like finding a needle in a haystack. Zephyr was going to sit in the row in front of me. I quickly put my mask back on, pretending to be engrossed in my phone until he was settled. I spent the next half of the class staring at the back of his perfectly sculpted head. Until a clear, melodious voice suddenly filled the room, speaking with a stunningly perfect British accent. Zephyr looked at her several times. I followed his gaze. She was quite beautiful. Now, thinking back, could Zephyr have been interested in Serafina even then? Out of guilt, I decided to send Zephyr a message. I opened our chat. The last message was from a year ago. I'd managed to get Zephyr's contact information back then, but I was too shy to actually talk to him. Who would have thought my first conversation with my crush would be an apology for ruining his love confession? I'm really sorry about today. If there's anything I can do to make it up to you, just let me know. I added a few cute cat apology emojis to show my sincerity. Understood, he replied surprisingly quickly. If you need speakers again, just come find me. Thinking it over, that was pretty much the only perk I had to offer. Okay. Just as I was wondering how Zephyr would ask me to compensate him, another message popped up. Save me a seat in class tomorrow morning. Oh, sure. Tomorrow morning was a general elective class, pretty easy. I could have skipped it, honestly. In the back. Got it, no problem. Before I went to sleep, I set 6 alarms, just to make sure I woke up early enough to snag a spot in the back row. I placed my backpack on a seat and sat down, feeling satisfied. I sent Zephyr a message. Second to last row on the right. My backpack's there. He didn't reply. Maybe he was still asleep. When the bell rang, I glanced back. Zephyr, wearing a cap pulled low, strolled in through the back door. Where are you? Zephyr sent me a message. I'm in the front. Why aren't you sitting in the back? I brought you breakfast. I rubbed my empty stomach. How did he know I hadn't eaten breakfast? Come to the back after class. There's an empty seat next to me, Zephyr added. There was no way I could wait until after class. Zephyr brought me breakfast. This was the stuff dreams were made of. Luckily, my seat wasn't far from his. I pretended to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, I crouched down and squeezed in next to him. Zephyr looked down at me under the desk, a look of surprise on his face. I pointed to the breakfast in his desk and grinned. Breakfast is best eaten hot. Zephyr had been generous. He'd bought me a meat bun, a siumai, 2 steamed dumplings, 2 pot stickers, a tea egg, a boiled egg, and even half an ear of corn. All my favorites. I took a bite of the meat bun, my mouth full. Why did you buy so much? Don't you like it? Zephyr twirled his phone in his hand, looking like some kind of CEO. I love it, I nodded vigorously. How much was it? I'll transfer you the money, I said, sipping the warm soy milk, feeling incredibly content. We'll talk about it later, Zephyr said without looking up, starting a game of King of Glory. I nodded, thinking he was probably saving it up to ask for a big favor later. The steamed dumpling in my mouth suddenly didn't taste as good. Just as I finished peeling the eggs and stuffed them both into my mouth, the professor started calling roll. Zephyr Sterling. Here. Oh no, my turn was coming up. I chewed frantically. Zephyr thoughtfully handed me the soy milk. Lyric Ivers. Oh, crap. I choked. Sir, she's here. Zephyr stood up. Then, the entire class's gaze turned towards me. And, of course, in my panic, I locked eyes with a pair of innocent, deer-like eyes. Serafina Moro. Oh no. This was bad. Zephyr, what do I do? I desperately swallowed the tea egg, staring at him blankly. What do you mean, what do you do? Zephyr's slender fingers flew across the screen, not even looking up. We might be misunderstood, I said nervously, avoiding looking in Serafina's direction. Did you forget what happened on the quad last night? Zephyr got a first blood, tilting his head and raising an eyebrow at me. Right. Well, at this point, I might as well eat. I buried my head and finished the last 2 pot stickers, watched half an episode of a variety show, and then class was over. Keep playing for me. I'm going to the restroom. Zephyr handed me his phone and got up to leave the classroom. Zhao Yun? I had no idea how to play this character. I didn't even know how to use his skills. I just wandered around in the bushes. Suddenly, I heard a melodious voice. Excuse me, when Zephyr comes back, could you please give this to him? I looked up. It was Serafina. Her hair was loose and slightly curled, her lips a delicate pink. I subconsciously licked my lips, which were still greasy from breakfast, and stammered, okay. The phone screen went gray. I'd been killed by the enemy Luban. In the chat, the opposing team was mocking Zhao Yun for being taken out by Luban. Great. Both in the game and in real life, I'd been completely humiliated. When Zephyr came back, he took one look at the death screen. I was worried he'd think I was a terrible player, but instead, he opened the voice chat, put his mouth close to the microphone, and said, word by word, Luban, you're dead. I rubbed my hands together shyly. I should have let Luban taunt me a few more times. Only after Zephyr had finished the game did I poke his arm. Serafina just came by and asked me to give this book to you. Got it, Zephyr said, placing the book in his desk with a nonchalant air. What was going on? Shouldn't Zephyr be explaining things to Serafina? Was he just giving up? Even though Serafina not showing up at the confession probably wasn't my fault, it was clear she'd noticed me. Because just now, Serafina had added me on QQ and visited my profile. Thankfully, for the next few days, Zephyr didn't contact me. With Zephyr's failed confession, I felt incredibly awkward between him and Serafina. I started wearing a hat and mask whenever I went out, terrified that someone would recognize me as the idiot who'd been crouching by the speakers. I went to the cafeteria and ordered a grilled meat rice bowl. Just as I was about to take off my mask to eat, a handsome guy sat down opposite me. Yes, it was Zephyr. I was so bundled up, he probably didn't recognize me, right? I silently picked up my tray, preparing to move to another table. My butt was still halfway in the air when I heard Zephyr's voice. Lyric, where are you going? He recognized me even like this? Everyone said Zephyr was cold and aloof, so cold he didn't like to interact with people. But I thought he was just arrogant and domineering. And me? I was small and timid. His voice had barely faded when I plopped back down into my seat. Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I took off my mask, smiling awkwardly. Why weren't you in elective class yesterday? I was sick, I said, sniffing my stuffy nose. Caught a cold. Zephyr stared at me with his chopsticks. It was the first time I'd seen that look of concern in his eyes. I think so. Go buy some medicine after you eat. I thought he meant I should go buy medicine after I finished eating. But Zephyr followed me out of the cafeteria. Car keys, Zephyr said, holding out his hand, sounding completely at ease. Oh! I rummaged through my bag and handed him the keys. It wasn't until I was sitting on the back of the scooter that I realized how obedient I'd become to Zephyr. Zephyr twisted the throttle. I wasn't prepared, and my forehead bumped into his back. Thankfully, we were wearing thick winter clothes. Hold on tight. The wind made Zephyr's voice sound fragmented. My heart inexplicably started pounding. I adjusted my hat and reached out, grabbing his hoodie. Just as I was basking in the feeling of being the heroine in a romantic drama, Zephyr stopped the scooter, turned around, and said, Lyric, your snot is running down to your mouth. Huh. And, of course, I instinctively licked it. Yep, salty. I looked up and saw Zephyr's slightly shocked expression. I frantically searched for a tissue. There wasn't one in my pocket. I rummaged through my backpack. The next second, a white blur appeared before my eyes. Zephyr was holding a tissue, pinching my nose. My face instantly turned red. So, the guy I'd always meticulously dressed up to accidentally run into was now, at this very moment, wiping my nose. I could hear the sound of my heart shattering. I'll do it. I pressed the tissue against my nose, trying to make the act of blowing my nose as elegant as possible. I'll go find some first, Zephyr said, turning and entering the pharmacy. He was probably trying to avoid embarrassing me. I blew my nose, threw away the tissue, and went inside, but I couldn't see Zephyr. I went to the counter, intending to wait. The female pharmacist suddenly spoke to me. Young lady, are you here to buy medicine? Yes. I'm looking for someone. The guy who was just in here? The pharmacist lowered her voice. Yes, I nodded. I saw him looking around for a while and not asking anyone. Young people shouldn't be shy. I'll get the medicine for you. The pharmacist looked like she understood everything, leaning down to search through the glass cabinet. Before I could react, the pharmacist handed me a box of pills. I took it and looked closely. It was X-Ting, a brand of emergency contraception. I was so shocked I almost dropped the box. I looked up and saw Zephyr walking towards me, holding several boxes of medicine. He glanced at the box in my hand, took it and handed it to the pharmacist. We don't need this. She just has a cold. You'll need it eventually, the pharmacist mumbled, putting the box back. I stood there, frozen, feeling my face getting hotter and hotter. Zephyr swiftly paid and walked out of the pharmacy. It took me a few moments to regain my composure. How much was that? I'll transfer you the money. Zephyr had bought breakfast last time, and I couldn't let him pay again. It wasn't much. I used a card. Why did she give you the morning after pill? Zephyr put the medicine in the scooter basket, tilting his head and looking at me, his eyes full of amusement. Hearing him say the words morning after pill so clearly, my recently calmed nerves instantly flared up again. It was a misunderstanding. She saw you looking around for medicine, I said, averting my gaze. Why didn't you just ask her? My grandfather is a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. I know what medicine works best. Oh, right. Let's go back then. If I didn't leave soon, my nose would start running again. Zephyr. I lifted my leg, about to swing it over the back of the scooter, my rear end not even touching the seat yet, and alarm bells were already going off in my head. No way. No way. I could run into Serafina here? Thankfully, I was wearing a mask and a hat today, so I probably wouldn't be recognized. Lyric, you're here too. Speak of the devil. I slowly lifted my head, meeting Serafina's clear eyes, feeling a sudden surge of panic. Hello, I greeted her dryly. Zephyr turned the key, not saying a word. Are you guys here to buy medicine? Serafina gestured towards the pharmacy behind her. Yeah, just some cold medicine, I replied, but I noticed her gaze was firmly fixed on Zephyr. This was the ultimate awkward situation. I was to blame. I shouldn't have become the president of the Light and Sound Club. I extended a trembling finger and poked Zephyr, signaling him to say something. But he seemed to misunderstand. He said, I'm leaving first, and started the scooter. If I hadn't turned around and seen Serafina's innocent, aggrieved expression, I wouldn't have felt so guilty. I've decided. I'm going to keep my distance from Zephyr and Serafina from now on, I declared to Ren, who was sipping milk, back in our dorm room. Cough, cough. You scared me. Ren wiped her mouth, looking at me with confusion. What happened? It's a long story. Basically, I don't want to be stuck between them. Even though I ruined Zephyr's confession if I keep hanging around it'll make it even harder for him to get back together with Serafina. I thought it through carefully. It made perfect sense. Who said Zephyr was chasing Serafina? Didn't you? You said the one being confessed to was Serafina. I just said it might be Serafina, because the gossip I heard was that Serafina was relentlessly pursuing Zephyr. I thought that's who it was that day. So, it wasn't Zephyr chasing Serafina, but Serafina chasing Zephyr? No wonder. Could it be that Zephyr was angry because Serafina didn't show up at the quad that day, and that's why he was being so cold to her? Pretty much, Ren said, not entirely sure of the details herself. Oh my god. Could Zephyr be using me to make Serafina jealous? It suddenly made sense. Why else would Zephyr suddenly be so close to me, even going so far as to do something as bizarre as wiping my nose? Zephyr's too proud to do something like that, Ren said. You have a point. Anyway, I need to stay away from them. You're overthinking it. Have you seen the assessment group list for our elective class? Ren opened her phone. No. You, Zephyr, and Serafina are in the same group, Ren said, her expression full of pity. What? I grabbed her phone and looked. It was true. Oh no. What's the assessment method? Did the professor say? The class is called Guitar Appreciation. The assessment is, of course, playing the guitar. If you can't, you can write a paper. Okay, I'll write a paper. It won't work if it's just you. The group leader decides the assessment method for the whole group. Who's our group leader? I asked anxiously. Let me see. Ren took a sip of milk and choked again. Oh no, it's Serafina. At the same time, my phone vibrated twice. It was a message from Serafina. Hi Lyric, I'm the group leader. I just asked the other members, and they want to perform a guitar piece. I wanted to ask for your preference for the assessment. Then guitar it is. I just wanted to ask, was it still possible to drop the class? Serafina created a group chat. I looked at the existing task assignments. Zephyr was playing the guitar, Serafina was playing the violin accompaniment, and another member was playing the drums. Wow, everyone was so talented. I was the only one who couldn't do anything. Would performing a food-eating act be acceptable? Lyric, how about you sing? Serafina mentioned me in the group. I hesitated for a long time. Then I saw a private message from Zephyr. If you don't want to, I can write a paper with you. Zephyr was such a good person, but I couldn't accept his kindness. It's okay. I can do it. But I seriously overestimated myself. During our rehearsal in an empty classroom, my off-key voice let out a wail, and all the accompanying music abruptly stopped. I froze, watching Serafina, holding her violin, smiling and smoothing things over. It's okay. Singing takes talent. How about you take a break, Lyric? Okay, I said, awkwardly pursing my lips, not daring to look in Zephyr's direction. I found a seat and watched them rehearse. Zephyr's head was bowed, his slender fingers plucking the strings, his hair shimmering in the light streaming through the window. I used to think Zephyr, with his loose-fitting clothes, hands in his pockets, and a stay-away look in his eyes, was just some arrogant jerk. But looking at him now, I felt a fleeting sense of his boundless gentleness. If Serafina hadn't let out a scream, I think I could have sat there and watched him for days. Ow, my hand! Serafina clutched her hand, her expression pained. I rushed over. What happened? Zephyr took a step forward, blocking my view. The string broke, Serafina said, her voice tight, sounding both aggrieved and apologetic. We need to stop the bleeding first, Zephyr said, pulling a tissue out of his pocket and handing it to her. It hurts so much. I can't move this hand, Serafina said, her voice trembling. It felt like she was about to collapse into Zephyr's arms. Zephyr held the tissue, pressing it against her hand, his voice calm and even. We need to go to the hospital. I touched my nose, watching them quickly pack up their instruments and grab their coats. I suddenly realized this wasn't my place to be. I slowly edged towards the door, planning to go back to the dorm by myself. Suddenly, I was called back. Lyric, take Serafina to the hospital on your scooter. I'll be there soon. I turned around, meeting Zephyr's firm yet gentle gaze, and nodded dumbly. I realized I really couldn't refuse Zephyr. Serafina, I'll take you downstairs. Serafina finally shifted her gaze from Zephyr to me, her expression distant and resentful. You guys go ahead, Zephyr said, turning to pack up the rest of the things. Serafina slowly followed me. At the university clinic, I helped Serafina register for the emergency room. The wound looked a bit deep and needed to be treated quickly. It's on the second floor. I gestured for Serafina to follow me upstairs. She looked back at the hospital entrance, ignored me, and went upstairs on her own. While I was waiting outside, Zephyr arrived. How is she? The doctor is still treating her. If you don't feel comfortable singing, don't force yourself, Zephyr said sincerely. It's okay. I want to respect the group's wishes. Actually, I asked Serafina at the beginning. If you decided to write a paper, then I would write a paper too, Zephyr said, tilting his head slightly, his clear eyes reflecting the bright fluorescent light overhead. I was stunned, not quite processing what he meant. Zephyr was about to say something else, but Serafina came out of the room. Zephyr. Serafina's wrist was bandaged, making her look even more fragile. Are you okay? Zephyr responded to her calmly. There was concern in his eyes, but it probably wasn't the kind Serafina wanted. Because the next second, Serafina rushed over, flustered. Can you take me back to the dorm? I want to talk to you alone. Your dorm is just up ahead. I won't be taking you. Zephyr, I'm injured. Serafina raised her voice, tinged with anger. It seems like you only injured your hand? Zephyr sat on a chair, his long legs stretched out, his expression both cold and arrogant. Anyone who didn't know better would think Zephyr was bullying the poor girl. Zephyr was a true gentleman. He remained completely unmoved in the face of a pitiful beauty. I have something to do later. Zephyr stood up, looking at me. I'm going to practice singing with Lyric. Serafina's body stiffened. She lowered her head, nodded, and said nothing, turning and leaving. She seems a bit upset, I said, watching her forlorn figure, and then immediately regretted my big mouth. Let's go, Zephyr said, thankfully not taking offense, and headed towards the stairs. Where are we going? I followed him, confused. We'll find another classroom. It turned out Zephyr wasn't just a pretty face. How could he play instruments and sing? Did you memorize the melody? Zephyr finished demonstrating and raised an eyebrow at me. Huh. Oh no, I'd been too busy admiring him. I hadn't memorized anything. I think so. Sing it for me. I'll listen, Zephyr said, leaning against the desk behind him, his hands propped on the surface. From this angle, his gaze was level with mine. I felt a surge of nervousness and took a step back, creating some distance. Cough, cough. Okay, I'll sing. Zephyr nodded, a hint of anticipation in his eyes. I closed my eyes and sang the parts one remembered. I sang, but it wasn't quite singing. Before I could even open my eyes, I heard Zephyr's muffled laughter. Lyric, I thought girls didn't sing off-key. My face flushed with embarrassment. What about girls? Who says girls can't sing off-key? No, I just never noticed before. It's fine, whatever you do is fine. Zephyr tilted his head, speaking softly, like he was explaining or maybe even coaxing. Oh! I awkwardly smoothed my hair. Your vocal placement is wrong. Your voice is too breathy. The sound should come from here. Zephyr suddenly reached out, his cool fingertips touching the side of my nose bridge. My heart started racing. I was too stunned to speak. Put your finger here. Feel it, Zephyr pointed to his own nose, gesturing for me to place my fingertip there. Oh. I touched the side of his nose bridge with my fingertip, feeling the subtle vibrations as he produced the sound. Can you feel it? Zephyr's lips moved, his breath soft and warm. I unconsciously swallowed, nodding. Wasn't this just asking for trouble? I pulled my hand back, feeling guilty. Zephyr, on the other hand, looked completely natural. I comforted myself in my mind. This is rehearsal. This is rehearsal. This is rehearsal. Let me try. It was true. Singing like this made it easier to hit the high notes, even though it couldn't change the fact that I was tone deaf. Thankfully, Zephyr was very patient. He played the guitar and guided me, line by line, until I finally got through the whole song. Not bad. Zephyr gave me an approving look and handed me a bottle of water. Thank you. I hadn't even noticed when he'd bought the water. Practice well and get some rest early, Zephyr said, packing up his guitar and slinging it over his shoulder. I followed him downstairs. This seemed to be the first time Zephyr had walked me back to my dorm. He helped me park my scooter, and we walked to the steps at the entrance. I'm here. You can go back now, I said, standing on the steps and looking at him. We were surrounded by couples being affectionate, making me feel a bit awkward. Okay. If you feel like it's not working, feel free to ask me to practice with you. I'm always free. Zephyr's tone was gentle. It sounded so much like the guys nearby talking to their girlfriends, making my heart flutter. Okay, I will. Thank you for today, I said, lowering my head, not daring to look him directly in the eye, afraid the sparkle in his eyes would make me fall completely. Go on up. It's a bit cold. Okay. I turned to go, but the next second, a large hand grabbed my arm. My heart started pounding wildly. In dramas, the next step after this pose was always a kiss. You forgot your key, Zephyr said, shaking the key in his hand, a sly smile on his face. Oh, right. I took the key, my gaze involuntarily drifting to Zephyr's lips, full and slightly upturned. They must be very kissable. What's wrong? Zephyr moved his lips, making my heart itch. Nothing. I suppressed the urge to kiss him and turned to run upstairs. The rehearsals went relatively smoothly. Seraphina's hand wasn't a major issue. It was just that performing in front of 100 people on the day of the assessment was incredibly nerve-wracking. Don't be nervous. It's just an assessment. A lot of people who performed before you didn't sing as well as you, Zephyr said, holding his guitar and reassuring me in a low voice. I'm not nervous, I said, suppressing my racing heartbeat, deceiving myself. Really? Your hands are clenched so tight they're white. I unconsciously loosened my fists and rubbed them on the hem of my shirt. Drink some water. It'll soothe your throat. Okay. I picked up the mineral water bottle on the table and took a few sips. We were next to perform. The closer it got, the less nervous I actually felt. The assessment went smoothly. I didn't know if it sounded good, but at least I didn't make any mistakes. After all, the focus was on Zephyr's guitar playing. Judging by the enthusiastic applause from the audience, it seemed to be okay. As we left the stage, I heard many girls discussing Zephyr. We returned to our seats. Zephyr packed up his guitar and whispered in my ear, "You sang really well just now." Before I could respond, I heard him add, "Actually, you took the wrong water bottle before you went on stage. The one you drank was mine." Huh. I was shocked. Why didn't you say anything? I was afraid it would make you even more nervous. How would you have performed then? I looked up and met Zephyr's gaze, which had a hint of flirtation. My heart skipped a beat. He was right, I was even more flustered now. I mumbled something random and rushed to the restroom. I don't know how long I stayed in there. When I came out, I saw that the people in the classroom were gradually leaving. When I returned to the classroom, I didn't see Zephyr, but his things were still there, so I sat down and waited for a while. I opened my phone and started scrolling through my social media feed. Suddenly, my eyes widened. This was me. Who had taken a photo of me performing and posted it on the confession wall. I clicked on it to take a closer look. Wall, submission. During the guitar appreciation class just now, during this group's performance, the guy playing the guitar was staring deeply at the girl singing. I'm shipping them. It's so sweet. I want to ask if they're a couple. There were even more than a dozen comments. They look so good together. The guy's gaze is so swoon-worthy. That's Zephyr, right? Reading the comments made my face flush. Although, I also wished he and I were a couple. I quietly saved the photo. In the picture, Zephyr was holding his guitar, sitting to my side and behind me, his gaze soft as he looked at me. It looked like there was really something going on. I was feeling giddy for a while, but Zephyr still hadn't returned. I left the classroom, planning to wander around and see if he was outside. Just as I stepped out of the back door of the classroom, I vaguely heard Seraphina's soft voice, seemingly coming from the hallway. I walked closer, intending to take a look, but then I heard my name. "Lyric is pursuing you?" Seraphina's tone was hard to decipher, and her voice was a bit muffled. "No, Zephyr was there too. But you're very close." "I'm pursuing her." Zephyr's tone was still unhurried. I could imagine the way he was speaking. Is that a satisfactory answer? Seraphina didn't say anything. "Seraphina, my affairs are none of your concern. Your feelings for me are also one-sided. Stop approaching me and Lyric." Zephyr's voice was a bit lower, carrying a hint of warning. I was about to listen more, but Zephyr had already walked over and directly bumped into me. I was just checking because you weren't back yet." My gaze awkwardly landed nowhere in particular. "You heard?" Zephyr was very close, so close I could see the texture of his coat. "Yeah, I think I heard you say you were pursuing me." I really wanted to know if it was true. "Yes," Zephyr nodded. "Really?" I didn't notice. I should have said it sooner. If I had known, I would have just kissed him that night. "It's my first time pursuing a girl. I'm not very experienced yet," Zephyr said, sounding a little shy, which was rare for him. "It's okay. Even if you're not experienced, I still like you." Gosh, I was always too quick to speak. But that day on the quad, my roommate was going to confess. I was helping him adjust the microphone, and then I saw you come over. "Then what about the girl? Why didn't she show up?" His confession failed. "That's a bit sad." "It's okay, as long as your confession is successful." Zephyr was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing. "I saw that you were taking a long time to come find me, so that's why I called out to you that day." "What do you mean by that?" What did he mean by taking a long time to go find him? "The first time I noticed you was in the cafeteria. You were rushing to class and bought a bunch of breakfast. When you took out your phone to scan the code, I saw that your phone wallpaper was a picture of me." Oh no, that was right. I'd even stolen the photo from his social media profile. Then I realized I had you as a friend and saw you frequently visiting my profile to look at my photos. Although, I later specifically paid for a VIP membership so I could browse anonymously. Actually, I have more content on my WeChat, but I was waiting for you to ask for my WeChat. "So you took the initiative to find me?" "Yeah, I had a crush on you for a while before I took action," Zephyr nodded. "It's okay. It's not too late for me to wait now." I grabbed Zephyr's scarf, pulled him down, and quickly planted a kiss on his lips, a loud smack. Zephyr was taken aback, clearly startled by me. "I've been waiting for this for a long time too." "I finally kissed you," I chuckled. "Go for it when you have the chance." "Can I kiss you back?" Zephyr asked, his voice hoarse, lowering his head. No. I shook my finger. "You can't. Save it for next time. I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep tonight if I'm too happy." Zephyr said that day he made his last shot on the basketball court and saw me walk by wearing that particular dress. He said he'd known all along that I had gone there specifically to see him, but that time, he suddenly felt a spark. I nodded happily, and then I went to the confession wall and commented, "They're a couple now."